after all-round consultation, has been to draft our own communique, a letter to His Excellency the President of Zimbabwe to find mechanisms or ways of interventions, because we believe that as Zimbabwean citizens, no journalist, not even one, should be subjected to the indignity of beatings. It is a very sad development that the country stands and watches as its citizens who are doing lawful work are beaten. And so I will read the letter that we have sent to President Mugabe's office and copied to ZRP Commissioner General Augustine Chihuri and the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, Elasto Mugwadi, and the Minister of Information, Christopher Mushowe, and his permanent secretary. The letter reads as follows. Dear President Mugabe, RE, epidemic of police brutality against journalists. We, the undersigned bodies representing journalists, editors, and media workers, write to bring to your attention a matter of great concern to us. The matter in question involves the continued beatings and arrests of Zimbabwean journalists pursuing their lawful work. These illegal and unconstitutional activities are being perpetrated by members of the Zimbabwe Republic Police, ZRP. In all these instances, the victimized journalists are accredited with your government-appointed agency, the Zimbabwe Media Commission. We are aware of your position regarding the safety of professional journalists as enshrined in the Constitution, hence our appeal to you for your intervention. Between June and August 2016 alone, we have already recorded several incidences of wanton police aggression and brutality against journalists, which include the following. On June 25, the following comrades, Garikai Chaunza, Christopher Mahove, Kumlanza Mchia, James Gemma, and Edgar Geshe were detained by the ZRP while covering a news event at the Rainbow Towers in Harare. Prior to this event, police assaulted Albert Masaka and detained Paidamoyo Mzulu while on assignment in Harare. A few days later, on the 5th of July, journalists Tafadzo of Meli, Richard Chidza, Godwin Mangujga, and Elias Mambo were arrested in Mufakose by the ZRP during the course of their journalistic work. Barely a month later, on the 3rd of August, journalists Lawrence Chimunu, Aida Metu, Arumta Tendai Musia Juripo, and Christopher Mahove were assaulted while covering a news event in Harare. Worryingly, in some instances, police have damaged or confiscated various tools of the trade used by journalists, some of which are yet to be recovered. It is also instructive to note that of all the above-mentioned cases, no journalists were charged. Your Excellency, we are writing this letter to implore you to intervene and stop the harassment of journalists. As a constitutional democracy, we believe those who violate the Constitution, such as the rioters police, should be brought to book. Section 61 of the Constitution categorically provides for media freedom, which includes the right to seek, receive, and communicate information. As such, we are calling upon your esteemed office to call on the Commissioner General of the Police Forces and the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission to investigate this matter. Please find attached pictorial evidence of this unwarranted brutality against journalists. We urge your urgent attention in addressing this matter will be greatly appreciated. Signed by Zuj, MISA, MMPZ, ZINEF, GMC, ACPDT, Zakras Media Center, and IFIC. Copied Chihuri, Mugwadi, Mushowe, George Charam. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. At this point, we'd like to take a round of questions, if there are any or any other intervention from colleagues.
Yes, sir. Are there any plans other than writing to the president of protest against police?
Thank you very much. As I said from the beginning, this was the first of many interventions that we seek to ensure that these unwarranted attacks against journalists come to an end. This press conference is the first of such interventions.
Okay, thank you. Another question, if any? Okay.
Sure. What will happen if Mr. Mugabe doesn't respond to this letter? Because he's in the habit of ignoring these kinds of petitions.
That's why, again, it goes back to what we said. Their response to to our letter will also partly determine follow-up activities. But at the end of the day, this is the first of such interventions that we are going to be taking, because we believe, for a long time, we thought there were mechanisms that we could find to ensure the safety and security of journalists. It's all about sitting down with stakeholders or coming up with suggestions to say, how do we ensure that journalists are safe while they're doing their work? And the current setup is where journalism is criminalized, and journalists are treated with impunity. And we need to force the stakeholders, including the government, to come up with solutions that we believe can ensure the safety and security of journalists. This is the only profession where you are beaten up for just going to work. Can you imagine if nurses are coming out of Barrenata and they're battle-wielding policemen, beating them wantonly and so on? This is the only profession that practitioners are beaten up for, and we believe this should come to an end forthwith.
Thank you.
Sure. Taking from what some former ZANU-PF officials are saying, revealing the character of President Robert Mugabe, and some who are still within ZANU-PF, they indicate that President Robert Mugabe is actually the one who is instigating some of these things, like attacks on journalists, attacks on war veterans, for instance. Do you think President Mugabe is likely going to listen if he is indeed the one who is actually instigating? And secondly, can't we take maybe as an example of what happens in Africa with our colleagues, for instance, the attack on journalists in South Sudan, when one of our colleagues was shot, immediately action was called and pens down, so that the government would know that journalists were angry and the message was sent. Why do we have to wait for the president to respond? Maybe he might even respond next year.
Well, obviously, your question is based on a lot of conjecture about third-party sources and so on. But certainly, we do not want to speculate. This is the beginning of an action, and this is not the end of the actions that we're going to be taking. We believe the environment is right and ripe for us to call on these kind of interventions, because there is a huge surge in the number of journalists who are being beaten up and harassed. And what we are doing is to try and leave a paper trail and try and follow legal processes and due process to say, this is what has happened, and this is unprecedented. The number of journalists that have been beaten up, it's worryingly shocking and high, and here's the kind of interventions that we are taking. We do not want to preempt any activities or actions that we're going to take, but certainly this is something that we've had enough of, and we are saying it should stop.
Sure.
Actually, how would you respond to this allegation that some of our members are becoming party to these factional wars that are happening in NUPF? Hence, some of us being caught up in these kind of skirmishes with the Republic Police. Because obviously the world level as a journalist already they've alleged that possibly we were involved in these factional wars and we were taking part in these political developments.
Well, thank you very much. Obviously, like any industrial profession, you will not fail to find bad apples. And certainly I'm aware of 1 or 2 cases where professionalism is virtually thrown in the mortuary. But be that as it may, what brings us here is not anything to do with the factional wars. It's to do with a police force which is beating up journalists at each and every opportunity that they get. That is where our worry is. That the perpetrators are the police who are supposed to be protecting the journalists.
But first, I'll come to you. Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Like, for example, in the last incident, we had someone, one of the officers actually said, take all cameras. And for us, it means it was a command from someone.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Sure.
So I wanted to know in total, you mentioned individual cases. Up to now, how many journalists have been arrested from journalists?
And how many journalists have been arrested? I think as the statement says, we've seen that the journalists are attacked, but none have been charged. If you're saying from June.
I mean, how many have been arrested? I wanted the total figure.
It's more than 20. Some of them have not reported. So.
Yeah, sure.
I just want to know, is there something that's being done to try and make journalists more involved? Because just a look here, it's just a handful of journalists. But according to the ZMC, there are maybe about 3,000 journalists that are registered. And if a few journalists are going to come to matters that affect them directly, I guess, does it send the correct message that this is a matter that affects everyone, that everyone is serious about?
Well, thank you very much. Obviously, this is not a workshop or a rally. These are representatives of media organizations. But the question that you raise is very important. And the importance lies in the fact that there's need for programming around conscientizing, not just the journalists themselves, because we also have our own issues, particularly around training on safety and security. Sometimes because of the lack of training or awareness, you find that starting from your dressing on its own, it can mean a lot. It can be misinterpreted in many ways, including to how to cover a rally. Where do you stand? Those are some of the things that we require to pass on information around, and including many things about how to conduct yourself. So there's that lack of information on the part of the journalists themselves, but also the police need to be schooled. Police need to be taught that you don't beat people when they are on assignment. That is what this statement that she's raising is clearly a sign that people are not aware of their duties, and this is what raises a lot of concern.
Yeah, perhaps to just add, this was also a pretty much urgent meeting, urgent intervention. And we tried as much as possible to reach out to colleagues. But the matter in question is that we have delivered the letters to the President and to the Commissioner General. And as the SG said, this is only but the first step at the beginning. We are also open to suggestions as well, on how we best we can protect ourselves.
For example, somebody has suggested the need for something like this. But what if you get the story when you are just leaving home? Are you going to have to rush somewhere and to collect the safety jacket? These are some of the issues that have been under discussion. But I think where we need to start off from is there should be zero tolerance on the attacks against journalists. And it is up to this government, President Robert Mugabe, to ensure that they enforce the laws of the land, ensure that journalists are safe. I don't know how many times we have to repeat it. These people are doing lawful work. They are Zimbabweans, some of them educated for free by the state. These are Zimbabwean citizens who are doing their work, accredited by a government commission, which is recognized in the constitution, and given those accreditation cards. If we were illegals, we would not be receiving those accreditation cards. We have government cards. Some of them even invite the journalists that the police beat up to official functions. Some of them speak to those media organizations. So that's why it's important to get the message into their heads that journalism is not a crime, it's not a criminal activity, it's lawful and legal work. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. I also would like to acknowledge the presence of the director of the Media Center, who's also party to Media Center is also party to this letter and to the Media Alliance of Zimbabwe.
This is just a suggestion. We have to wait for something else to happen, which is worse off than what is happening to our 20 colleagues. Because honestly speaking, if we're saying 20 colleagues have been affected, attacked, and so forth within the past two months alone, this is too high, too big a number. And waiting, I will go back to my earlier question, waiting for him as Mr. Mugabe to respond and knowing him that he might respond next year. Time is moving. Can't we do something as soon as possible to send the message? Yes, the letter can go, but can't we even make, maybe as a suggestion, to march in the streets as journalists, send the message so that, at least, so that the message is sent, because waiting for the response, honestly, it might come next year, then what?
Because on Monday, some other processes are coming again. We'll be covering those protests, will be attacked again. Before we express ourselves. And the letter will be still there. And the letter will be still
The beauty about leading, being a leader, they are very young radicals. And we are trying to follow process and the radicals are calling you to arms. No, I think it's very clear. But today we are for this. I think there is a way forward that is going to be planned. And it has a lot to do with what the radicals in the house are saying. But we do not want to let events over, So certainly there are mechanisms and measures and steps that are being taken. As we have said, we need to send a very loud and clear message that enough is enough, and we will not tolerate any abuses of journalists. And I think the first salvos were fired at a meeting. I think that was on exam PF. When comrades got together and refused to allow a colleague to be beaten, I think that was the clearest sign that we've had enough. And these were journalists from across the media divide that said they were not going to proceed. They threatened to walk out until the situation was corrected. So we hear your concerns and there is going to be a way forward. We are not going to just issue a statement and keep quiet. Maybe there will be processes of wanting to know who the authors of the statement and also $300 bills. I don't know, but certainly we will not allow that to happen. What has happened should have been the last, or should be the last. We're not going to stand by. We're not going to condone that. We're not going to allow that to happen. We are Zimbabweans too, in case they think we are foreigners. We are Zimbabweans too. The government needs to know that.
Sure, I recognize.
The issue of clothing. Can't you add a helmet on that? So you guys, the stories that were being thrown by
sometimes we yes, we can laugh actually, because we can laugh, but it's true. It's a helmet. But again, we could also use it as a symbolic form of protest. Where we go to Africa my helmet and to show the extent to which these things are bad. So that's an idea. But certainly, it's a very we need
helmet for journalists.
Yeah, because it's symbolic. We can go to where we tap our Africa my helmets actually. Yeah, so in the assignment to Africa, in case they throw, and then you put tape across your mouth, you know. But hey, let's not start debating the next activity.
Any issue? All right, thank you very much, colleagues.